Hello everybody and welcome to Benivo Bites. It is Wednesday and we are live with an amazing show. We have a game changer of a show for you today. I'm super delighted to say that our special guest today is Nicole Milman, the head of global mobility at Wayfair, and we're going to be talking about the Wayfair program, and what they've done is it's just awesome. You're gonna love it. So we've got a great show lined up for you today, which is just, as I said, just super exciting. I'm seeing people coming in from all over the world, so it's great to have so many of you here today from all over. I saw there's Tom there from London. I saw Nicola was there. I saw Jen Feckerman also from London coming in. Mary from snowy Estonia. People coming in all over the world. Hiya, Emily from. And that's LinkedIn user in the green room. That's actually Nicole in the green room there. And so we've got a great show lined up for you today. So let's move on a little bit. As you all know, the way it works is please join in the conversation, write in the comments box. Tell us, as you've been doing, who you are, where you are, everything that's going on in from your perspective. And also, as we get into the meat of the conversation today, please do ask questions and we'll try and share as much as possible that we can with you. As I said, today's show is we have a live case study with Wayfair, an amazing company, Wayfair, and a really interesting global mobility program. And the stuff that they are doing is just formidable. And then the week after, we've got another really good show to you for you. We are so delighted. We're doing The View from the Top Goes Green, and we're going to be talking about green mobility. And we've got Enno Omen and Bjorn Minks from Bayer, and we've also got Jason Suto from BlackRock. And they're in different stages of their journeys, but they're going to be talking about what they are doing now for making their mobility program much more sustainable. So there's a lot of really good stuff that we've got coming up. But the other thing, every week I like to share with you a little bit of breaking news, what's been going on in our world. So let me quickly share with you all the news from the last 7 days in global mobility. Here is our breaking news. So that's all our breaking news, and congratulations to everybody who in the last week has announced a new job or a promotion. Congratulations to you all. And also, as I'm sure everybody knows by now, you can get your credits. So whether you want CPE credits from ERC, with many thanks to Lynn Shotwell and the team, there's your credit. And also if you want credits from HRCI or SHRM, then many thanks to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. Those are your codes there. So I'll leave those up just for a second. But of course, what we do each week is we have an immigration update. So what I want to do now is to bring onto stage the one and only, the great Julia Onslow-Cole, to give us an update of what's been going on this week in the wonderful world of immigration. Let's hear from Julia. Julia, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Where are you?
I'm in Utah. It's I'm very high up altitude, and it's very heavy snow. We're here at the Fragam & Partner Conference.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, good for you. Okay, and so Julia, it's your immigration update.
Yes.
What are you going to be telling us about today?
Well, I thought for a long time we haven't actually covered UK immigration law. And when I first started practicing immigration law so many years ago, I was a UK immigration lawyer. And my husband, who's a doctor, used to tease me and say, I could do your speech for you. And he used to mimic me and say, there are two types of work permits, a full work permit and a training work permit. And actually, the UK immigration system is so complicated now, and there is a whole raft of changes. So I thought, just give a 3-minute overview of what those changes are so everyone really knows.
Excellent. Okay, we'll go for it. Tell us all the changes.
Yes. So thank you to my colleagues in London, and in particular, Alex Finch and Gemma Hislop. So from the 11th of April next week, the Home Office is going to open this new global business mobility route. So this is a brand new idea, this new route, and it's broken down into 5 subcategories. And I'm just going to go through those 5 different subcategories. And in addition to this all-encompassing global mobility group, there's 2 other new categories that may be relevant for you. So I just wanted to talk about those. So starting with these 5 new subcategories in the global business mobility route, there's some really very key principles that you have to remember about all 5, which is that there's no route to settlement. So people come on, the idea is this is global mobility, so you come and you go, but you don't settle. You can bring your family with you, which, as we know, is so important. And there's no cap or limit, which is really fantastic because employers had such difficulty with caps. So effectively, we still have the skilled worker route. So that route, the skilled worker route, where you hire people from outside your own company, that is still there. But this really replaces intercompany transfers. And the first subcategory of 5 is for senior or specialist workers. So this is a rebranding of the intracompany transfer route. And unless you're on a higher salary, then you have to have been with that company for 12 months overseas. And the salary has slightly increased, not too much, to 42,500. And then you can stay in the category for a maximum of 5 within 6 years, or 9 years in 10 if you're a high earner. So if you're a high earner, which is over 73,900, then you don't have to have been 12 months in the overseas company, and you get more concessions. But it's not a route to settlement. Number 2 is the graduate trainee, and that's a rebranding of the intracompany graduate trainee route. You have to have been with the company overseas for 3 months, and you get a maximum of 12 months stay in the UK. And they've put the salary up, but it's really small. It's just another £100, so it's 23,100. The third is the expansion worker. Now, this replaces a very old category called sole representative. And this is when you used to come over from overseas and you were the first representative of that company in the UK. So the expansion worker is you have to have worked for the company overseas for 12 months, and you can get up to 2 years, and you can have as many expansion workers as you want, which is really positive. The fourth is service supplier, and this replaces the temporary worker international agreement route, and you can stay for a single assignment for 6 or 12 months. And then finally, there is a brand new provision, which is the secondment worker. And the idea is that you're seconded to the UK as part of a high value contract or an investment by your employer overseas. And you have to, again, have worked for 12 months for the overseas company. Now, this is really interesting, and we're looking at this very carefully, but we haven't got all the details of this yet. So although it's going to be started to be brought in next week, the details of that category and some of the other details are not worked out, but that looks very interesting. And it looks like a great sort of solution to some tricky business visit problems. Now, finally, in addition to this global mobility, global business route with the 5 subcategories, there's 2 more categories I want to just bring to your attention. The first is for high potential individuals. And these are basically overseas graduates who've come from a very defined number of institutions. There's 38 on the list. And if you are lucky enough to have studied on one of those institutions and you've got a bachelor's or master's, you can come for 2 years. A PhD, you can come for 3 years. And you can work and you can do self-employment. You can bring your family, but you can't settle. And finally, another new category called Scale Up, and that opens on the 22nd of August. That's for talented individuals recruited by a company that are going to bring growth to the company. So companies need to show that they're phenomenally growing and that they really need this person. And the great thing about this new category is you can bring your family, you can actually settle, you can get indefinite leave, and after a couple of years, there's a lot of flexibility. So it's a really good way to attract sort of high performers overseas.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, Julia. I mean, you were saying that, you know, back in the day, your job was simple, and your husband thought, you know, how simple your job was. I know I think you've told me before, he's a consultant pediatric neurosurgeon.
Yeah, neurologist. Yeah.
And I suspect actually that the way things are going with the complexity of our system is that maybe you could do his job as well. But
I doubt it. But I think we're catching up. I think global mobility is getting as complicated as being a doctor.
Anyway, Julia, I know you're out in Utah at the moment at the Fragment Partner Conference. Wish everybody at Fragment all the best, and say goodbye to you now. And
yes.
And wish and see you next week. So we'll say goodbye to you. So please, everybody, you know what it's like. Hit the heart, hit the like, hit the applause, and let's say a big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole for every week her formidable immigration updates. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
So we're now going to move on, and we're going to move on and talk to Nicole Milman and Nitsan Udan to talk about what Wayfair have been doing in a moment. Before we get on to that, I just want to mention one thing, which is our rising stars. Many of you we've had hundreds of nominations, which is absolutely fabulous. But if you do want to make your nomination, then I just wanted to tell you that you've actually got just 1 week left. So if you haven't made your nominations now, then please make your nominations. Just go over to the Benivo.com website, and you'll see a link there where you can make your nominations. And let's really thank all the wonderful young rising stars that we have in our profession. So without further ado, what I do now want to do is to bring onto stage the wonderful Nicole Milman and my colleague Nitsan Udan to talk about everything that's been going on. And as I said, I think this is a real game changer of a program. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Oh,
Nicole Nitzer, I'm so excited for this show. It's so great to have you on board for this show. So let's just start off with you, Nicole. Obviously, you're the star of the show today, but tell me a little bit about Wayfair, because I suspect most people out there will have heard of Wayfair. You're pretty much everywhere, but I suspect there'll be also people who don't know Wayfair. So tell us just a little bit about Wayfair, the company, and also just a little bit about yourself too.
Thank you, Brian, and hi, Nitsan. Hi, everyone. So Wayfair was founded in 2002, and it's an e-commerce that focuses on selling home furnishings, furniture, really expanding, leading in that avenue. We're headquartered out of the US. In terms of myself, so I often say when you're doing global mobility, you should live and breathe it. And I do feel I've done that. So I've lived and worked in 6 countries. I've been doing global mobility the majority of my career. I was born in Hong Kong, lived in the US, lived in the UK, lived in Poland, lived in Shanghai in China, married to an Argentinian. I think I pretty much nearly touch most of the continents of the world. And I feel that
you are global mobility personified. I mean, we talk about third culture kids, and clearly that's you. But you're not just that, but your work career, as I said, you are Mrs. Mobility. But what we'll do, Nicole, I promise you, is we'll get you back on the show later in the year to really go into your career and everything that you've achieved and all the stuff about being a third culture kid. Because I think, we've been chatting a lot about it on and off over the last few weeks, and it's just absolutely fascinating. The countries you've been in and the areas that you've lived in, and also the companies because you've worked for some pretty big name companies as well, haven't you, earlier in your career?
Yeah, so I have. So I've worked with the Big Fours, with Deloitte, with EY. I've worked with Becton Dickinson, Philip Morris, RBS. So touching quite a lot of industries as well. But I think global mobility doesn't really define by industry. You can pretty much work in any of the industries and move your knowledge along and adapt to the culture of the new company.
Absolutely. Here's a comment. You definitely live and breathe GM, Nicole. I'm not sure who that's from. Sometimes you can probably see on LinkedIn, but I don't necessarily see it on here. It's something to do with privacy settings at LinkedIn. Anyway, tell us a bit about mobility at Wayfair. So you've told us a bit about the company. Tell us about Wayfair's mobility program. I mean, how many people do you move? What sorts of destinations? Give us an idea of volumes before we start.
So with our projections for 2022, we're looking at about 470 international moves. However, they're broken down between new hires from abroad, as well as people who currently work for Wayfair and is moving to another entity. We then have probably about 350 US domestic moves. In terms of the volumes, we're looking at growing them by 30% year on year.
30% year on year. That's incredible.
Yeah, because that's also in line with our hiring model. So we're looking at really growing and expanding. In terms of country combinations, so we're currently have entities in the US, in UK, in Ireland, Germany, China, where we've just opened entities in France and Italy, and we have an expansion growth as well in terms of where we're going into. Oh, and Canada, of course, I forgot to mention.
So we've got to mention Canada, but that's just incredible. Okay, so the growth is formidable. I mean, it's a pretty substantial program. So you're moving about 800 people, either domestically or internationally at the moment, and that is forecast to grow at 30% per annum.
Yes.
So you'll be over the 1,000 mark fairly shortly on that basis. So, I mean, that's really, really exciting. Now, tell us, I know you have radically changed things at Wayfair, and it's really exciting times. And I said in the blurb about it, it's some of the stuff that you're doing is really, game changing for the industry in various ways. But tell us about what you used to have. I'm talking about the type of program now, what you used to have and where you're moving to.
So when I joined Wayfair, we had policies in place, but they were quite basic in nature in terms of what we were providing to people, as well as the experience that people were getting from the program, and how they were mostly coordinating many of the aspects by themselves. So when I came in, I revamped the org structure as well. So I grew my organization to hire people within the global mobility and immigration function, so we could handle the volumes and handle what I was looking to implement. And what I did implement, and we've just gone live, is a new suite of policies. So we have our long-term policies broken into two. So we have an enhanced, a standard. We then have one-way move broken into three options: business initiated, one-way move standard, and a self-initiated. And then we also have a commuter policy. Within all of the policies, it's a core flex point approach, and the point approach is based on family size. To determine what is the correct policy, it really goes in line with what's the rationale for the move. Have they applied for a job? Is it really business driven in terms of capability building or developmental needs? And my team is doing consultations with the business to determine that part. My team is also doing consultations with the employees. So once we've settled on the correct policy type and they've been initiated through our lovely Benivo platform, our employees then have a consultation with my team to determine how they should utilize their points.
Okay, so you've gone from what I think it was your phrase, fairly basic policies there, or fairly standard, and they were pretty light policies, weren't they?
They were light.
Yeah, to a fully fledged core flex with point system, which is quite radical. And I know that's just the start of the way that technology has changed things, and we'll get onto that in a moment. Before we do, one thing that strikes me is if you are growing at 30% per annum, I'm guessing you're recruiting as well. Do you want to give a shout out if you're looking for people?
I am. We've got 4 open roles. So currently we have 4 open roles in my team. We have 2 US immigration specialist roles who report into my wonderful US immigration manager, Erin. We then have a US immigration associate role, and we have a global mobility associate role as well available. Okay, so anybody out there, if you're interested, having heard the show about working at Wayfair, joining Nicole's team, and you're interested in any of those roles, then I presume just contact you on LinkedIn or something. And contact me, that's fine. You will join an amazing team. They are my team, but they are amazing. I honestly do believe that. And yeah, we have a lot of fun with what we do with our vendors and with each other.
Okay, so let's move on. I mean, you've talked about, I think your phrase was the wonderful Benivo technology, which obviously was pleasure, delighted me. But you are developing or have launched this new program based on Benivo technology, and perhaps you and Nitsan could just tell us a little bit about how the technology is supporting Wayfair.
So really, the technology, so when I was looking at what kind of technology or what do we want to implement for Wayfair, I went through a lot of reviewing and looking at different options, so different assignment management tools, different RMCs. We are really tech focused at Wayfair, and the majority of the people that we move are engineers, and they really understand and enjoy that tech experience. And I believe that is what Benivo gives to my employees. So firstly, Benivo isn't just, an online DSP. It actually has the capability to do that assignment management side for the internal team. So we can put our case into Benivo. We're able to do cost projections. We're able to populate the assignment letters, get them sent out for approval, signatory. We're then able to switch it on for the employee so that we can carry out our consultations and let the employee really select the benefits they want. And then it does the magic of initiating our service providers. So rather than where you don't maybe have a say or know who your service providers are, I was able to go and talk to each service provider, put them into the Benivo system, and that initiation goes over to the service providers really seamlessly for the employee. And the beauty of Benivo is I have one invoice, I have one source of truth in terms of reports. I also have really good analytics and dashboards. I'm able to track SLAs. So for what we need from a Wayfair employee experience, it is a game changer. The employees also get this lovely gift from Benivo, which they love. So I wasn't too sure at first, but they really love it. So it's really positive in what we've implemented.
Well, that's just wonderful to hear. And I mean, Nitsan, from your point of view, obviously, that's what you've been striving for, to develop this sort of end-to-end platform. I know some people out there think of Benivo and they think of it in terms of more the sort of DSPN, but actually what we've developed is an end-to-end assignment management platform that is giving vendor management and indeed cost estimates and the fintech. So I'm wondering whether, Nitsan, you could just say a little bit about what the need is that clients like Wayfair are looking for in terms of the tech and the vendor management and the payments as well.
Yeah, I think what we've been hearing over the last few years, the whole industry has been hearing, is that there are too many layers and there are too many touch points and there are too much repetitive work. And there was frustration because most companies could not afford the cost of implementing a tech solution. But even if they did implement it, they still ended up with the relocation being manual, and still the data doesn't connect to everything and still doesn't sit in one place, and there's no option to really drive the insights. And we went now more than about 2 years ago, we went on the mission to change that and really be able to connect everything to this end-to-end solution that provides the 3 areas of value. It's the technology for the mobility team, and we will soon see it, right? So we will also see a live example, but it's a technology for the mobility team to do their daily work, and to start and unlock the value of data. Because everything sits on a single platform, it's possible to drive insights that were not available before. And I'll show a few examples in a couple of minutes, but I'll just give one example, maybe the holy grail in our industry, connecting a cost estimate to the actual cost, and then being able to improve the next cost estimate based on those actual costs. And that is something that many companies in our industry still struggle. So that's one area of the value.
Let's just drill down on that. That is a game changer. I want to pick out the game changers here. So what you're saying is that cost estimates historically have been based on estimates, but actually using the technology and the artificial intelligence in the technology is that what we can do is constantly refine the cost estimate to make it more and more accurate, based not just on estimated data from a data provider, but based on real data from within the company.
But yes, this is exactly the outcome. But one of the challenges we've seen in the industry is a step before, is actually figuring out what is my actual cost. How much this relocation cost to me? Because some of the expenses were submitted by the employee on the expense reimbursement tool. Some of the vendor spend are that. I need to go to, as a mobility manager, to 5 different providers to just consolidate the data. So not having, that one thing, that single invoice that has everything from the payroll cost to the non-payroll to the vendor spend to the employee, it's already created a view that is available without all the manual work to create that. And then there is the whole vendor management, because normally when someone will take an assignment management system, they will still need to go and take an RMC to manage those vendors. And that creates that extra layer. We remove that. We allow the vendor management. It can be vendors that we've worked with before, or any vendor, like we did with Wayfair. Wayfair had some vendor that said, we want to work with that. We said, no problem. We were happy to work with any vendor. In some areas, they didn't have vendors, and we were able to bring the vendors. But what's the solution? End-to-end is us contracting with these vendors. So they are our subcontractors. We do the vetting, we do the cybersecurity, and We talked about a little bit about that in previous shows, and we are publishing also a cybersecurity benchmark report. So I'm not going to talk too much about that, but it's another game changer in how cybersecurity is managed, and how we reduce the risk compared to the traditional model. And then there is also the making the payments to these vendors, which means that the vendors are using the platform to submit all their invoices, and it all comes into a single place and can consolidate that. And the third, right, and then of course creating the employee experience, and these are things we will see in just a few minutes.
Okay, we'll get into the employee experience, but what we're saying in terms of delayering here is that Benivo is a tech platform, so the actual physical services are subcontracted through. So, for example, the household goods are subcontracted through. But the vendor management side, a lot of the manual processes are taken out, all the manual processes are taken out, and it's fully automated. So that layer of vendor management disappears from whoever is doing that, the RMC or whoever. And that's one of the game-changing things that Wayfair is doing, and that has made the process more efficient and presumably much more cost-effective too.
Exactly, right? Removing layers, improve the experience, unlock the value of the data, and of course reduce cost, because there's no need for so many touch points. Manual work has been automated. We'll show one example, right, with temporary housing, how we automated that in the relocation space and removed the whole need to have any fees associated with booking of temp housing. But that's same with cost estimate. Now there's no fees on a cost estimate, and it's instant. I can just click a button and have it.
Okay, so we're integrated with the cost estimate tool, and we can get instant cost estimates. I mean, maybe at some point we'll go in, and actually maybe now's a good point, and start showing some of this. So if you want, Nitzan, shall we show, and obviously, Nicole, we're showing it's your platform we're showing, so please do come in and comment on things. But so Nitzan, where do you want to start in terms of showing the platform?
So to show the full end-to-end experience, we're going to start on a journey from the employee experience. We'll talk about the vendor and their experience and platform, and we will end up where everything actually starts, in the management platform for the mobility manager. So we will take the kind of a little bit the opposite way to the flow of data or the flow of the process, but there is a reason for that, and let's hopefully see that this story connects well.
Okay.
So let's share my screen.
There we
Let me
go.
know when it's on.
That's on, and it's all logoed up nicely for Wayfair, I see, which is a happy coincidence.
Yep, beautiful. It looks like
So-
our system.
So just to correct, this is the live platform. This is not a demo platform.
This is the live platform. Everything I will show from the employee experience is going to be live. When I'm going to show tools on the management platform, I'm not going to show live data in order to protect personal data and make sure we don't disclose any confidential information. So that's going to be our demo platform for the management platform. But that's what we are starting with the live platform of Wayfair. And I'm in the view now of the employee. I'm relocated here as Tom and moving to Toronto, and I'm relocating with my partner, with my spouse, which means that also they now receive a platform. So there is a separate platform for the partner branded as Wayfair to show how much Wayfair welcome the partner, the spouse, and how they can communicate also to them directly and help them with other partners, etc. So that's just one area that is an additional value in terms of the employee experience. On this platform, I have my actions. This is everything I need to do, whether it's to sign a document, whether it's to fill a form, whether it's to complete a few steps with regards to my settling in, like opening a bank account. All of that on a single place. One of these game changers is that employees now don't need to go to different tools. We've seen companies who have sent employees to 15 different tools. We now consolidate to one view, everything happening with my vendors, with the global mobility, with a team, with HR, with everything I need to do. Everything is on a single platform.
So this will sit above everything: tax, immigration, household goods, other services. I mean, Nicole, I mean, how's that
So
working from your perspective?
It is working. So it's sitting above nearly all of our services at the moment. So it's we work with PwC or Vialto for tax and immigration. It's sitting at the moment for tax, so we can initiate tax directly from the platform. Immigration, we will be able to initiate. It's just we also need to tidy up a few pieces of our process before we do that live from the Benivo system, because we've been initiating it through a different practice. So we need to make sure that the team's also ready before we click go on that in the platform. In terms of the other services, then they are all initiated directly through the platform.
And which other services are we talking about?
So the services that the employee selects via their points, so let's say household good shipment is actually a flex benefit. It's not core in our policies. So the employee can select if they would like household good shipment, and they would basically, it's almost like a shopping cart. They put it into the shopping cart and they click checkout, and then that initiation goes over to our shipping vendor. Similar with destination service support. So they can select 1, 2, or 3 days, obviously based on hours, so they can take it hourly, and they can click, put it in their shopping cart, their points go down, and they check out with it. So we have a number of options for them to select from.
Okay, and Nitsan, we're on the screen now. I can see 186 points. So tell us a bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, so reflecting what Nicole said, right? One of the things that Wayfair introduced very cleverly is a core flex system with points, which has been something the industry have been talking about for a long time, but didn't happen. And it didn't happen because of the administrative challenge behind that. And technology has simplified that and allowed this to happen. So let's look, what is that experience to the employees? Basically driving a lot more flexibility. And we've seen that in any benchmark report we've done, companies are looking to switch to core flex in order to provide more flexibility to the employee, maybe one of the biggest trends coming out of the pandemic. So here, as the employee, I can see my core services. This employee has already selected a few flex services before. So I've already selected here some partner support and the shipping. I've already selected that. So we'll see what that means. And I chose 1 day of home finding. And I have some of my core services like temporary housing and cultural awareness and tax consultation. And I can learn a bit more about these processes. I can give feedback. And these are one of the things we do that are very special, which is pulse feedback, right? I can just give very quickly while the service continues, give a 1-sentence feedback, meaning that we can identify issues in real time and work to resolve them. No need to wait for the end of the survey, the end of the move, the end of the process in order to start and realize what doesn't work. So it's a lot of instant approach and ability to make changes live. And I have those points, and with these points, I can also select my flexible benefits. So just as Nicole said, I have here my shopping experience. I will have a very similar one if I use Wayfair as a customer. Here, as an employee, I can see which services are available for me. I can see which one are popular with my colleagues. I can see reviews and star rating from colleagues, what they like, what they didn't like, what is popular, and I can start and build my own basket and choose my services and see how the balance of my point is changing based on those decisions. Now, in addition, we've also added here to the traditional services also non-traditional relocation services. So, for example, I can decide I don't need shipping. I just want to buy new furniture, obviously on Wayfair, but I can do and use my points to get a gift card or a voucher that I can use on Wayfair to spend and buy. I can decide that I want to use some of my money to either a pet shipment or even have a handyman who will help me assemble my furniture or some taxi credit. So different kind of uses. And what we've seen that introducing a policy like this does is dramatically reducing the number of exceptions. Right, so the number of exceptions and all the admin work associated with them reduces, and the employee satisfaction goes up because they are in control and they can choose what they want. I can see here my basket, and if I click confirm, this will automatically be sent either for a review with my consultant or automatically to the vendors to authorize them. So the vendors will get on the Benivo platform an initiation. It's their data there will be protected based on the cybersecurity solution we have, and they will be able to provide the service, update the status, and at the end submit the invoice in order to get paid. So creating that full end-to-end experience. And
okay. I think this is a good point. There's a question that's come in, but maybe you could just answer it, which is from Merrily Bat. Are there feeds going backwards and forwards in the internal systems? In other words, we've talked about this. I mean, how are the systems being integrated to get the information between the platform and the suppliers downstream?
Yeah, we don't charge a fee for the vendor in order to integrate with us. I mean, there are different ways of integration in our industry. Some people choose to do an API. We're happy to support that. We don't charge anything for that. Others prefer to use our tools, and again, they can use our tools. They're not going to be like a monthly fee or a subscription fee that they need to pay. I think one of the other areas of game changing here for us is the ability to reduce the data redundancies. So a lot of employees need to provide the same information over and over again. Same with the mobility team, right? The mobility team also need to provide the same information if they authorize a set of vendors. We've automated that, right? Authorizing all vendors in one click, providing the data just once. Here, we can see how we can do the same for the employee. So instead of providing my date of birth 15 times and my social security number, God knows how many times, we make sure that the data is provided just once, we protect it, and we share it with the right vendors only at the right time when they need that. And I can see here an example of one of the services I've selected with spouse support. I don't need to provide a lot of information. Just 2 fields are missing in terms of the data that was needed in order to authorize this service. So instead of a full need assessment that was before about 20 to 25 fields, I only need to provide 2 that we haven't collected before.
And so this one's for NetExpat. So shout out to Alain and everybody at NetExpat there, and hopefully you'll get lots of referrals coming through the platform to you in the coming weeks and months.
But just one thing on the question, because I think the question also linked to our internal systems, to Benivo. So I wanted to touch on that, because we are currently in the process of building an API between our recruiting system and Benivo. So 50% of our moves and our initiations come from talent acquisition. So by having that API built out, that would move swiftly into the Benivo system, which would mean that my team doesn't need to input those data. We've also built a form that is quite dynamic, and that form is also so for initiations that come from managers or our HR talent teams, that form would be able to be pulled through into the Benivo system. So again, my team doesn't need to input the data there either. In terms of what we take back, we are looking at capturing our letters, our signed transfer letters and assignment letters, and having an API go from Benivo to Workday so it can be housed there.
Well, I mean, I keep using the word game changing, but it really is. Now, we've got another example here, and this I think is an API with Alta Vita, if I'm correct. And it's a shout out to Vivian, the team at Alta Vita. And I know, I'll let you say a few words about that, and then I also know you want to show the management platform as well, the back end. And
yeah, it's another great way of how removing layers deliver a better experience and some cost savings, significant cost savings. So temporary housing here as part of the core package. The traditional model that we all know is that the employee needs to speak with the relocation consultant who will go to source options, put them on a PDF, normally limited to 3, sometimes 5, send it to the employee will review it, choose one or ask for more, and the process goes on and on. But by the time they select, sometimes it's not available, so new options needs to be sent. And it's end up to be a frustrating experience, but also costly because there's so much manual work. Now, when someone wants to book on Agoda or on Expedia or Booking.com, that's not the experience they have. So why can't it be in mobility? And that's why it's such a game changer. I can click here on my temporary housing. It automatically knows everything about me. It knows that I'm going to Toronto. It knows that I'm moving with my spouse, what I'm eligible, my spouse or partner. It knows what I'm eligible to. And based on that, it shows me properties within the budget that was predefined. So I can see, this is my office location. I can see around the office which properties are available, and I can go and see the details of these properties, compare them, choose one that I like, and just book it. And it's all instant, it's all live. I don't need to make back and forth, and can be proactive.
So
if I do want to speak to someone can send me options and source me more options. So personal support will never disappear. And we are not saying, oh, there's no value of that. We're saying, but it needs to be valued. We should not do admin work with people. We should do the value add with people and use technology for the...
I know the amount of time that people waste cutting and pasting PDFs of different properties, sending them out, is just incredible. And if this system takes all that out, then again, it's just taking out layers, it's enhanced efficiencies, and it's delivering the same level of technology in our corporate life that we get in our home life. And it's just wonderful to see consumer grade technology. So Nitsan, do you want to start showing us the management platform?
Yes, I'll show the last thing here, which are the Benivo trackers. Just like when we order a package on Wayfair and we want to know what's the status of it, or when we order a food delivery on Uber Eats and we want to see where it is in every moment, we created the same experience with the mobility vendors, which dramatically reduce the uncertainty and the number of questions. So I can see here, this is my shipping, what's the status, what are the next steps, how many days each step will take, and what's going to be the next step, right? So helping better manage the expectation as the employee. And this data, when we switch to the mobility view, and I am going into the global mobility platform, I can look at how the same data can be analyzed in order to make decisions. So I'm going to look here, for example, and be able to see that the same 6 steps I saw before are now, I can manage for them the SLAs. So instead of the vendor tracking their own SLAs and reporting to the corporate that, surprise, surprise, they've met them all, we now have external tracking of these SLAs. And we can track it, not just the historical SLA, but also in real time. So I can see that there are 5 people stuck at stage 1 of this process for longer than the SLA. And I can immediately identify if there is a VAP there that I want to action on, or if there's anything else that I need to see with the data of these employees in order to be able to resolve it. So these employees might not necessarily even know that something goes wrong, but with real-time alerts, we can find out that's not going into the right direction and raise an alert to resolve it even before the escalation comes. And with that data, we can also look into the future and compare, right? We talked about the aggressive growth plan that Wayfair has. This helps me identify if the employees will arrive on time to the work start date using predictive analytics and being able to compare similar relocations in the past and then identify the employees that are at risk of not arriving to day 1. And I don't need to wait for that. I can identify it a few months in advance and make sure that either we prioritize them to get them to meet it, or we figure out a solution, whether it's going to be an EOR or to change the work start date. But we don't need to wait to the problems to come. We can be proactive in problem solving that.
And Nicole, from your perspective, how important is it to be able to have these predictive analytics and this tracking mechanism?
To be honest, really, really important. So we are very much a company built on data, not only the predictive, but also to be able to report out every quarter to my leadership and to show them how mobility is doing. But we've kind of driven it down into like 3 tiers. So what is it that my team need to know, which is all the predictive, which is to know, okay, how can we get ahead of it and how can we make sure it's smooth for our employees? And then, okay, what is important for the masses in terms of key stakeholders to know? So what's important critical data in terms of where we're moving people to or how quickly we're getting people there? And then drilling down a little bit further in terms of, and how much has this cost us? Are we meeting SLAs? And providing that to my leadership, so who I report into, and to show, okay, what's the benefit? What's the value add? It's really good to have it all in one system because everyone in global mobility knows that providing analytics is always pretty tricky, especially when you're playing with numerous different systems and you're trying to collate it into one live document to be able to share. So having the ability to go into the Benivo system, pull any of the data that we want. And the great thing that Benivo have done is whatever we ask Nitsan or Tom to implement for dashboards or what we'd like to report out on, they're able to implement it, which is really refreshing. Because I've been in positions where people say, okay, we'll get that on the back burner. It will be out in next year. It's going to be there. Benivo actually are able to do, or so far, whatever I've asked, they're able to do it, which is really refreshing. And it's great to be able to actually present out on this information.
And do give me some examples. I mean, that's great to hear you say that, but what areas of dashboards, for example, have you asked for that Benivo?
Let's talk about maybe the diversity and inclusion one, which was your idea and now became a standard feature for everyone.
Oh, do we have that there? So we're very big on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we wanted to ensure that we're able to report out and to show, okay, not only male, female, but to show, okay, where are we hiring from? Are we recruiting or letting people go on assignments that are single parents? What's the percentage of that? Also looking at job levels, what job levels are we moving? Also looking at in terms of different family sizes, in terms of locations people are coming from, that we're hiring from. So we spoke to Benivo and we gave a number of things that we wanted to look at from a diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Benivo were able to come up with this rather amazing dashboard for us, which is also then when we share it with our diversity, equity, and inclusion team, they can see from a global mobility standpoint how we're implementing that within our policies and practices.
That's just incredible. And then Nitsan, I know the other area you wanted to talk about was the payment solutions.
Yep. And I'll just use this opportunity to say first thanks to Nicole and the team for giving us the idea, because what we like to do is to hear about the needs, to solve them, and then make them the standard. We've rolled out this diversity and inclusion dashboard to everyone. These are the things we do all the time. We try to build the smartest program on the market, and by using the wisdom of those who already share the challenges and then solving them and sharing that data and those solutions with others. And a big shout out to the team. Right? So being agile, being able to change priorities, being able to deliver quickly is thanks to those amazing people. I'm so lucky to work with them at Benivo. So you ask about payments. I want to show you one of the values of having all payments under a single platform. Payment to the vendors, to employees, to running the cost estimate. We're not going to get to actually do that today, but just to touch on that. fact that everything sits under a single platform, and this platform is the system of record as well, right? So all the documents, all the information, everything that is needed about the employee also sits in this one place, which means I can now look into the cost estimate versus actual cost and compare each of the cost estimate, what was the actual cost, and then be able to drill down and identify what were the causes for the differences. And based on that, to ensure that our estimates become better and more accurate. And I can do it by the type of spend, by the department.
I think Nitsan, I'm afraid that your sound is breaking up a bit. So let me just try and point out some of the things that we're seeing here. What we're seeing are cost estimates versus actual, and you can see them by country, by business unit, pretty much any way that that you want. And if Nitsan, if you move on to another slide, I'll try and talk over it for you until we get your sound sorted. I'm afraid.
Yeah. Maybe I'll stop sharing, and that will improve the quality of the sound, or still not?
Yeah, no, that's a bit better. So let's try.
And just to wrap up right on that, having the data in a single place, being able to use it in order to continuously improve and have everything on a single place, from a cost estimate to the actual, and then our data scientists from Benivo also help to make sense of the data and tell the story and identify opportunities for improvement and benchmarking.
Okay. I'll just ask a couple of questions of Nicole. I'm afraid there's still a bit of a problem with your sound, Nitsan. Is that, Nicole, I mean, data analytics, as I said, I know you're a data-driven company. Are there areas that you want to go into for more? I mean, challenges that you want to put out there? I know this is a bit of a curveball for you, but we do love a good challenge. So, I mean, what's your dream in terms of the data analytics that you want?
So my dream would be to have the world on a screen that you can almost roll over. So let's say I put it onto the US, I could see how many foreign nationals I have in the US. I could drill down and see when are they expiring. I could see how many people I've moved into the US within a quarter, within the year. I could see in terms of the cost, what I've spent on average on those relocation moves. I think if we could have something, Nitsana, I'm sure you can build it, where I could just hover over all of my different entities and see, okay, cost, people that are there that are on visas, what if they're assignments, if they're one-way transfers, that would be amazing, because that is really what we want. We want to be able to pull that in quick time and to say, here you go, everyone in Wayfair, hover over and you can see the whole population of global mobility and what we're doing.
We at Benivo love a challenge. We've got a team of developers who just, that's what they live for. So we're going to take that on as a challenge. And this was not rehearsed. So this has just been sort of sent out to us, a challenge live on LinkedIn. So we'll see. Leave that one with us, and we'll come back with a solution, hopefully sooner rather than later, and we'll hopefully prove to the world that our can-do attitude, our agility is as real as we say it is. But just moving on really for the last couple of minutes. I mean, another issue, of course, is the employee experience, and the aim of all this is to create an experience that the employees love. So, I mean, tell me, what sort of reaction are you getting at the moment? And, and tell me, what the Wayfair view has been from the employee's perspective.
So, thanks, Tom. I'm glad you've accepted the challenge.
There you go, we're in business.
In terms of the employees that have gone through the platform, like we've only just gone live. So we did have a few people who went through post going live. The feedback that we're having is that it's very agile, that they love the platform, that they love how informative it is. So a lot of our people are on the go. They like to be able to just access and know what they need to do. They like the fact that they're able to digitally see the area before they move there, so they know what to expect. In terms of, from a Wayfair standpoint, employee experience is really high on our agenda. So we want to not only collate surveys, which I know Benivo will do, and actually that's a great thing, because the surveys are almost unbiased in a way, because we're getting the surveys to know, okay, how did all of the different service providers perform? What worked? What didn't work? And I think a lot of times, we can send out surveys internally, or we can have each vendor send them out. But when it's coming from a almost unbiased platform, I'm hoping that these survey results are going to be a true representation of, okay, how did everything work? So we can look and we can work with our partners and ensure we can make improvements where needed, or see what's going well for them, what isn't, and we can tweak and innovate the process.
Absolutely. And Nitsan, any final words from you? Hopefully we can actually hear them, but let's give it a go. I hope your sound is okay for final words.
Yeah, I think this journey that Nicole described is exactly the journey that we all need to take as professionals. Of try, error, get better, learn from mistake, iterate on that, and do this whole cycle in a very small time frame to be able to continuously improve. And that's what makes our work exciting, and also the opportunity to work with such an innovative team such as the Wayfair team.
Okay, well, our hour is up, so we're going to leave it there. What I want to do is just say thank you to everybody in the audience for being here today. Thank you to Nitsan, thank you to Tally behind the scenes producing the show, but a special thanks to Nicole Milman from Wayfair for sharing with us the exciting journey that you've been on. And just to remind people, there are job openings at Wayfair, so Nicole mentioned them. So if they're of interest, then do reach out to Nicole. Let's see if we can delayer the relocation recruitment profession as well, and get you some CVs out there in real time. We are back next week when we're going to be talking about global mobility going green, and that's with Bayer and BlackRock, and that's going to be an absolutely amazing show. And next week, of course, we'll have Julia Onslow-Cole back with us and Pat Jurgens back with us. And don't forget that next week is the last date. Next Wednesday is the last date to submit your nominations for Rising Star. So if you haven't already done it, please do make your nominations for Rising Star and make somebody happy. So thank you, everybody, and see you all next week. Take care.
Bye.